All right, your next speaker is Leslie Singer. She's been applying and leading others in user-centered research, analysis, and design techniques for the past 8 years. She's currently the user experience practice lead at Erie Insurance, which is a regional insurer and Fortune 500 company headquartered in Erie, Pennsylvania. She credits HFI's CUA and CX training and certifications with helping set her up for success. Outside of work, Leslie enjoys adventures in the outdoors, everything from rustic backwoods camping to lounging on a white sand beach with a cocktail in hand. At home, she cohabitates with a free-range ferret named Thad, aka Thaddeus Von Thadwick, or Vaughn for short. Please welcome your next speaker, Leslie Singer.
Thank you so much, Noah, for the introduction. I appreciate it, and welcome everyone. I am both honored and excited to be here with you today to explore how we might apply a human-centered design process to develop a future state strategic vision within the insurance sector. Let's dive right in. Speaking of diving, have you ever jumped out of a perfectly good airplane? I have done this twice, actually. Perhaps you can relate to a fear of heights or a sense of anxiety at the thought of being strapped to a stranger who you are trusting has packed your parachute correctly so that you will land safely on the ground. This is exactly how I would describe the way I felt when I decided to take a 1-year rotational assignment outside of information technology, which is where user experience is structured within our organization at Erie Insurance. I've worked in IT for about 15 years. I've been a business analyst and did that for about 8 years before transitioning into user experience research and design. I'm very accustomed to working with stakeholders and development teams across projects, domains, and functions to inform and improve technology solutions. I'm comfortable applying human-centered design principles and techniques to create simple and intuitive user interfaces for the digital touchpoints that we have with our customers, agents, and employees. And I do this by conducting iterative user research through field studies, observation, and contextual interviews, designing responsively with a focus on interaction design and visual design, and moderating usability tests. And yet, when an opportunity was presented for someone from UX and IT to join a newly formed innovation team on the business side of the house, to help build a repeatable outside-in approach to problem solving and potentially bridge the gap between idea generation and execution, I knew I had to take that leap. I confess I didn't know what innovation would look like at an insurance company. Considering our products are heavily regulated and fairly intangible, we essentially sell a promise that when you have a risk and you experience a loss, that you will be indemnified, that you will be financially reimbursed for that loss. But I was excited to be a part of a customer-centric approach to developing future strategies. And I was grateful to learn that I wouldn't be alone in the journey. Erie has partnered with Harmonic Design, a service design firm that's based in Atlanta, Georgia, to help push the innovation practice forward. They've coached us on how to zoom out to understand the problem space and design within our complex ecosystem. Now, when I hear terms like innovation and strategy, I think about horizon lines and level of zoom. Instead of working on a project with a concrete technology deliverable that may roll out to users in a matter of months, or potentially a year or two if it's something that's large or highly complex, we're looking at areas of opportunity from a 10 or 20,000 foot view with a timeline of 5 or 10 years out into the future. So we're having to look at trends in technology, business disruptors, and changing behaviors to help us identify the spaces that we want to explore. The approach that we're taking to do this type of exploration is rigorous, and it is built with a bias for speed. Our process is based on human-centered design or design thinking, and it can be used to create or reimagine products, services, and experiences that ultimately demonstrate customer value, deepen the loyalty of the independent insurance agents who represent Erie Insurance, and differentiate Erie in the market. Erie's innovation process does take an outside-in orientation to create balanced solutions. So we're going to try to find harmony between the desirability, viability, and feasibility, which is known as the balanced breakthrough model. Desirability, for those of you who aren't familiar, this is where we're going to apply that human-centered lens and ask the question, will people prefer this? We want to ensure that any new offering is deeply relevant and compelling to our prospects and customers, the agents who represent us, and the employees who will service it. We're going to look at viability, where we apply the business lens, asking, does it make business sense? And we want to ensure that our organization is both well suited and well positioned to introduce any new capabilities. And then feasibility is where we're going to apply a more operational and technology lens, asking, are we capable of doing it well, to understand how we can create the clear and meaningful value for Erie. In the time that we have today, I'd like to focus in on the first 3 steps of the process, where the primary lens is desirability. These steps are going to occur after we've identified an opportunity or problem space to explore. And once we've formed a small team, usually with diverse perspectives and skills, who are going to share some blurred roles and responsibilities for accomplishing the activities and outcomes that we'll discuss as we dive into the research, design, and test phases. In the first phase, we're going to focus on people first. We want to start with an understanding of the behaviors of our prospects, customers, agents, and employees, because we want to ensure that the offerings align with people's functional, emotional, and social needs. So coming to innovation from UX, I was able to draw a lot of parallels to the research that we would conduct ahead of designing technology solutions for systems, where our goal is typically to understand people's mental models, the tasks that they need to accomplish, and barriers to completing those tasks. In this process, we start with stakeholder interviews so that we can gather any existing data related to the area we want to explore, understand internal perspectives and current roadmaps. We look for challenges or barriers that we may need to overcome. We're looking for allies who will aid us in the process. And we begin to uncover uncertainties that are critical to understanding an opportunity. We also get that internal perspective of what we think our customers are experiencing or what they may want. And that helps us flush out a hypothesis for the future state. And it helps us plan our first round of generative research. This is also referred to as discovery or exploratory research, and it helps us get a deep level of understanding through qualitative methods. So similar to the user research conducted in UX, we're going to establish a protocol, develop a screener for recruiting, and a discussion guide for facilitating. Now, in my year with the innovation team, it happened to occur during the pandemic, and so our team was remote, and we relied heavily on Miro, a digital whiteboard and collaboration tool used to develop and share some artifacts to aid in our remote research interviews. So these are a few sample work products. We used personas to help validate our assumptions about target prospects and customers. Ecosystem maps, which is the image in the middle. This is really helpful in understanding different actors and how they interact with each other, their environment, or the product and services that are related to the area of opportunity. We've also used jobs, pains, and gains to really understand the work that our agents put in, and as well as the customers. So understanding the work that they're doing, any pain points related to that, and you start to get a sense of the value that they gain from doing those activities. We use empathy maps, which is the smallest image here, to help team members and stakeholders put themselves in the shoes of the intended audience by capturing what that person is thinking, feeling, saying, and doing in a given situation. And one of the main activities that we used were journey maps to capture and visualize an individual's end-to-end interaction. And what we find here is that oftentimes a company has an internal perspective. Erie Insurance does this all the time, where we map out a customer journey based off of what we've designed or what we think they are experiencing with us. But by using this in generative research, you actually start to see all of the work that they're doing outside of their interactions with you. So you may not understand how much effort they're putting into research or comparison, how many people they're talking to or interacting with to get advice. And you can really start to identify opportunities where your company may be able to provide some value to your customer. Coming out of this phase, there are a number of potential outputs, which are not intended to be standalone deliverables. in and of themselves, they shouldn't stand on their own. Instead, they're going to lay a foundation for the next phase of the process, which is where we're going to invite additional collaborators to learn about our findings so they can help us turn insights into bold ideas for the future state vision. So we're going to invite them to a readout where we'll share the insights that we have gathered and research themes related to the unmet needs, the motivations, and expectations. Again, we're going to use some of these work products in Miro. We're built with that bias for speed. So it's not always a very formal presentation, not to say that we don't create PowerPoint presentations and things like that, but we try to move as quickly as possible. So we invite people in and we walk them through our findings. We share an experience map, which is the largest image here. And it's really a compilation of all of the interview participants' journeys. And it highlights the trends and the key moments that seem to really matter in an experience or an interaction with a service. So the team continues to refine the critical uncertainties, coming out of this. We will create an opportunity statement based off of what we've learned. So we're refining our hypothesis of what that future state could be. And we'll incorporate the learnings from this phase to do that. And then we're going to move into our second phase, which is where we design by involving stakeholders and sometimes the intended audience members in the process so that we can co-create mutually beneficial outcomes. During this step, we will generate and prioritize multiple ideas to address our opportunity. We're going to push past the obvious solutions towards innovative, ambitious ones, which is not always the easiest thing to do. I will say, coming from UX, the activities in this phase felt similar to design sprints or ideation where we might bring in the project team members to help solution some of the critical aspects of a system or application. But it was also very challenging to think about things that are on a 5 or 10-year horizon line. When you're working in technology, you kind of understand the systems that you're working with and how things operate. But to think about what something might be like 10 years from now, it's not always the easiest thing to do. I will say that we believe that good ideas can come from anywhere, but the best ideas are built together. So the activities in this phase are really intended to bring in voices from across the organization. We want to provide an opportunity for multiple people to be heard, regardless of their position or level in the organization. We do often target folks that we think may be big thinkers or idea people, but we also want to bring in people who are tied to the opportunity or the space that we're exploring so that we can get their perspective on things as well. Now, when you're bringing people together who may not typically be involved in design activities, it is critical to ensure proper planning and preparation, especially when you're doing this remotely, potentially using tools that people are uncomfortable or unfamiliar with. And when you're running these sessions with potentially large numbers and you want to get through multiple rounds of ideation using different breakout rooms and things like that, it's really important to invest a lot of time into the preparation and planning. So then as we come out of this, or as we go into this phase, we're really targeting generating that large quantity of ideas in the sessions. And in the sessions, part of the activities are going to be to organize, review, and select the best ones to combine so that we can build those into concepts. Excuse me. So during these ideation sessions, we are going to use a lot of tools and tactics to keep participants focused, creative, and productive. You can see here in the smallest image, we use how might we statements that allow the team to reframe any known challenges within the initiative. We're going to reframe them into aspirational questions that create a welcoming space for out-of-the-box thinking. We use icebreakers as something to get people comfortable with drawing and get their ideas flowing. We may use inspiration or cedar concepts to demonstrate the level of ambition that the team is targeting, or sometimes to get the expected ideas out of the way early in the process. Some of my work products here don't seem related to the initiatives that we've explored during my time with the team. Some of that is because of the strategic nature, but you'll see here that pizza is always a hot topic in our ideation sessions. It is inevitable that someone is going to want to build a version of the pizza tracker. So we always get a good chuckle as we're preparing and encountering that in the ideation sessions. Everyone loves pizza. So as part of the outputs of the design phase, the team will create concept summaries that include a visual and a verbal description of a solution that outlines a value proposition for our target customer, as well as for agents and Erie. We're going to identify new critical uncertainties that are related to the concepts so that we can use those to frame the next step of the process, which is where we're going to go into testing. And we want to test early. So we're going to conduct evaluative research to gather feedback on what people like and dislike about the concepts to further inform the development of our future state vision. Looking back to my experience in UX, the approach that we take during this phase does feel very similar to usability testing. And we look to create prototypes, which is something that we do in UX, although it's usually an interactive prototype to test our concepts. Here, we're looking to de-risk the ideas and dive deeper into possible solutions by putting low fidelity prototypes in front of the intended audience. It is still a fast and inexpensive way to present future states that create the illusion of a finished solution. And this enables us to quickly learn and gain valuable insights before we spend significant resources actually building out any sort of a solution. So similar to step one, there are various artifacts that the team uses to capture insights when conducting the testing interviews. During the early phase of testing, we're primarily leveraging experiential prototypes, and these describe the potential solutions and what the intended audience might experience. So storyboards, which is the largest image in this slide, they're like comic strips. They include a visual and a narrative to describe the functional, emotional, and social benefits to the intended audience. So they're going to illustrate how an actor or character experiences and benefits from the solution. This really helps put participants in the shoes of this hero character so that they can react to the situation. We have also chosen to include low fidelity screen mockups for key concepts that were related to digital touchpoints to gather deeper feedback from participants during this step, especially when we were working on opportunities for reimagining an existing service or experience. Sometimes you have work that's in flight. There are already, projects on the roadmap that are, touching this experience. If you're able to gather any findings to support the execution team in this phase, that can be really beneficial. It's a quick win for sure. So assessing the uncertainties in the concepts during this phase is really going to help the team determine if the customer value proposition is relevant and desirable. And for Erie, it's really important that we also understand if our agents will see value in what we're considering offering and their role in the experience. So we begin to look at whether it makes business sense to pursue the desired experience, product, or service at this point as well. The outputs from this step are going to help set us up to define a North Star or future state vision that we're going to then be able to backcast from to get to a minimum viable offering. So we can inform our roadmaps by working backwards from what we have learned is desirable to then inform the capabilities, processes, and platforms needed to support a scaled offering. And as a bonus, user experience can have the confidence that the initiatives with digital touchpoints and user interfaces that are prioritized for funding are solutions that have been through a rigorous human-centered design process where real ideas were tested with real people to ensure that we're building the right things at the right time. And on a personal note, having landed safely back in IT after my year with the innovation team, I've been promoted and am now serving as the UX practice lead. And I truly believe my experiences and learnings have ignited an even greater passion to inspire others to try to understand people so that we can design better solutions. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had to learn and apply this process to initiatives within our core business model to reimagine experiences, to help build awareness of the process and the practice, and to garner buy-in for this approach. And to also see it be applied to non-core initiatives that have the potential to be new sources of revenue for Erie, while concurrently building out some detailed documentation for reusable aspects of each step of the process and developing training modules for anyone in our organization who has an interest in innovation or who may be invited to participate in some of the activities, because co-creation is so central to our process. I'm excited to leverage the relationships that I've built and the techniques that I've learned to now come back and try to reinvigorate and prepare the UX team so that we're better able to support the strategic future state visions of our business partners, knowing that we're looking at horizon lines that are 5 or 10 years out. And we really need to push ourselves to get more training, get more experience in these areas so that we're prepared to support those activities. It really is an exciting time to be a part of Erie Insurance's team, especially user experience. And so I do encourage you to check out our career opportunities if you're interested or looking for something. We do have opportunities out there, and I am always happy to connect via LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I'll turn it back over to Noah for any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, we have some time for questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A box. Please upvote the questions that you'd like to see more about. We have one in there now so far, and so we'll dive in with that one to begin with. That question comes from Biljana, who asks, and remember, you can watch along in the Q&A box to see which one I have active too. Biljana asks, I'm still wondering why we don't use psychological archetypes and let users identify with those instead of using personas. And there's some other conversation happening in the chat after that, but in the or the comments after that. But yeah, so that question, psychological archetypes. Thoughts on that, Leslie?
I will say that the experience that I have with using the personas was really us kind of brainstorming just to understand from an agent's perspective, is this someone that it sounds like is your customer? So as we were targeting some of the different experiences or initiatives, we had some customer segmentation done from some quantitative data. And so we pulled some of that together. And then as we were working with specific agencies, we were really using these personas to kind of say, hey, is this someone that you would see yourself interacting with for this offering? So that was really more the intent behind it. It was kind of confirming our understanding of the type of people that they were interacting with.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions, guys? If not, then we may wrap up a minute early for a slightly longer lunch, which is all right.
That's always
give
a
people
nice
a chance.
thing.
Yeah, there's worse things. I'll also ask if anyone has any suggestions in the chat for other kind of topics we could have as to talk about in the chat. Anyone have any ideas? Wow. We'll see if anyone has thoughts. Leslie has asked you to post your LinkedIn profile, and which you can do, Leslie, if you'd like to, but no pressure. It's up to you if you want to do that kind of thing. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Sarah's got a suggestion for the topic for the chat for the other. All right, cool. I'm going to stop the recording. Please give Leslie a big thank you in the chat box. Make sure to set your thing to go to everyone. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Noah.